Okay, we're in the last part. This is social approach to learning, and social is groups. And this one also has to do with our environment. So he's also behaviorist, so don't be fooled. And this is all going to start with, and I want you to write this down, observational learning. And it is our boy, Albert Bandura, with the Bobo doll. And he is going to be the creator, write this down, of the social learning theory, which is basically that people learn behaviors through observing others and then mimicking them or modeling them, right? Which is basically copying them. Okay. Now, observational learning is a social learning. We learn it from the people around us. And so he has what's called reciprocal determinism, and definitely a word you need to know, which is reciprocal determinism. Reciprocal meaning that the environment, write this down, influences the person and its thought, which then in turn influences the behavior. Okay? I'm sorry, influences the environment. So the environment influences the person's behavior, and then the person's thoughts then influence the environment. Okay, it's kind of like reciprocal. It the environment will determine how you are, and then your thought around the environment will determine the environment as well. Okay, they both influence each other. Now, is social cognitive theory, and we'll write it down. I want you to write that down. Actually, before you do that, go real quick to the Bobo doll experiment because I do need to talk about that. And I've talked about it in class. I'll show you a video, but it's basically they're gonna have two groups. They're gonna have one group that saw the adults being aggressive with dolls, so that will be your experimental group, and then your goodness, I forgot. Come on, I forgot. It's too late. A The non-experimental group is going to be. It's going to drive me crazy. I don't know what. Can't believe it. The control group. There, got it. The control group is going to be the one that does not see adults being violent with the toys. So this one group sees an adult basically beating up on this Bobo doll, and then the other group just sees the adult playing normal. And then what ends up happening is the child, when they go into the room, they notice that the kids that observed the adults beating up on the Bobo doll, they also were aggressive towards the Bobo doll. And they found that specifically boys were a lot more aggressive than the girls. Okay? So that is the Bobo doll experiment. And then we go to social cognition, cognitive theory, okay, which just basically means that people, um, we learn our behaviors by observing others and as well as with operant conditioning, which has to do with the reinforcers and punishments. So it's kind of like a combined essence, but just think social cognitive theory. Social, we look at it, the world around us, the groups around us, and then we just copy them. Okay? Now, there's 4 steps in order for us this to happen. First one is attention. We need to be paying attention to what's happening in our environment. Second thing is retention. Can we recall what we noticed? Third thing is reproduction, which is basically mimicking the behaviors, okay, that we noticed. And then the motivation, right? A is there something pleasant to mimic that behavior, right? So for instance, if you see, like when you were in school, right, in elementary, that maybe you saw this kid getting the attention from the teachers and them being nice, and so you're like, I guess let me go do that as well, so that then the teacher will be nice to me. Okay. So that's that motivation. And then my favorite word is self-efficacy. Okay, I love it, which is basically the how you believe in your own abilities to complete a task or reach a goal. Okay, and I always tell my students, especially the day of the AP test, you always want to be a person with high self-efficacy because the higher you think that you're capable of doing it, the more chances you have of actually fulfilling and doing it, right? So having self-efficacy is, having that trust and believing that you can do anything because you can. Okay, you just gotta say, like, you know what, I'm a baddie. I could do this, right? So you want the high self-efficacy. If you have a low self-efficacy, right, it leads to that low self-esteem in which you feel like, oh, I can't do this, this is too hard, when you all are capable of doing it. Some people have to work a little bit harder than others, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. Okay? All right. And last but not least is basically a little bit about observational learning. And we've talked about it, which is basically where we're going to mirror and imitate other people's behaviors. But they also have linked it to mirror neurons. So they have seen that when people are observing other people doing something, a behavior, that our brains, right, our neurons are also firing in the same places it would if we were actually doing it. Okay, which is pretty cool. And then we have what's called nothing else, and that's it. All right, see you. We're done with learning.